Welcome to Kingdom Business Talk. I'm Ricky Trinidad, and today we're diving into something truly fascinating: AI's perspective on a city's revitalization, Newcastle, Pennsylvania. You're about to see two AI agents discussing the city's transformation, projects, trends, and their view on how revitalization should take place with a community focus. I simply provided the data, but my AI agents or programs analyzed, researched, reasoned together, and prepared this presentation for me, and I'm happy to share it with you. AI is very advanced now, and it's being used to solve many world problems. It can and must be used in processes of planning, development, construction, and revitalization of communities because it adds intelligence, as you'll see. At the same time, you can never take out the human factor and the spiritual effect and intent that we implement into the things we do. Like everything else, there's always a balance, and it's up to us to drive technology because it's neutral. It can be used for good or for evil, and it's often used for both. My goal is to use the highest level of technology to enhance our communities and our lives as best I can. We'll have some pretty cool videos on this podcast showing our ventures into artificial intelligence, advanced construction technologies, systems, and materials for planning, developing, and building new communities that improve the quality of life for families and for businesses. In the meantime, check out this AI podcast about revitalizing the city and let me know what you think and your thoughts on using technology for good.
Hey everyone, we're diving into Revitalization today. This company is out to revitalize communities in Northwest Pennsylvania. And not just like building a new strip mall revitalization. We're talking big picture. Physical, economic, even spiritual and aesthetic changes.
Yeah, they don't hold back on the whole mission-driven thing, do they?
Not at all. But here's the thing. They're very upfront about being a for-profit developer. So we've got this interesting tension right off the bat. Profit motive versus genuine community benefit.
Definitely something to keep an eye on. Right away in their materials, they highlight using the latest construction tech.
Which I thought was interesting, because Northwest Pennsylvania, no offense, it's not exactly known as a tech hub.
Yeah, right, exactly. So that commitment to innovation, it feels very deliberate, like they're not content just doing things the way they've always been done in that region.
And they're laser focused on middle-income markets, which they actually say is a less crowded space for development.
Smart move on their part, honestly. I mean, think about the current housing climate. Huge demand for affordable, well-built homes. They seem to be tapping into a real need there.
And setting themselves apart a bit.
Exactly.
So they start back in 2017. Goal number 1, revitalize cities like Newcastle, Pennsylvania. But, and this is a big but, it's not just about building houses.
Oh no, not even close. We're talking whole walkable communities, the kind designed to boost local economies. They're thinking big picture stuff.
Very much of the moment, too. I mean, the lack of affordable housing is a national crisis at this point.
Absolutely. And people, they crave that sense of community, you know, the kind that walkable neighborhoods can provide. I think Revitalization is tapping into that desire.
They highlight 4 core values in their documents: innovation, sustainability, community focus, and quality. We've touched a bit on innovation already, but what about this sustainability thing? What's that look like in action?
It seems to be about more than just using eco-friendly materials, which is important, but they're thinking long-term, green spaces, walkable neighborhoods, so people rely less on cars.
Right, so it actually changes behaviors, not just the buildings themselves.
Exactly. And of course, energy-efficient homes. They're aiming to minimize their environmental footprint while creating communities that are healthy and sustainable for residents.
You know, you brought up that interesting tension earlier, the for-profit versus community good thing. Does this sustainability focus play into that, do you think?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Are they walking the walk, or is this greenwashing? It's too early to tell for sure.
It's a good PR move either way, I guess.
Sure, but there's also a growing movement of companies who are realizing that sustainability and profitability, they're not mutually exclusive.
Yeah, they can go hand in hand.
Right. Consumers are getting more eco-conscious. Embracing sustainability, that can be a smart business move. But the question is how deeply ingrained it is in a company's DNA, you know?
So, with Revitalization, is it truly core to how they operate or just a good marketing tactic?
Exactly. And that's something we'd have to look at more closely.
Okay, so that's something to keep in mind. Now, another value they emphasize is community focus. Not just as we said, plopping down buildings, but making sure those buildings actually serve the people who are going to live there.
Yeah. And that's what could really set them apart. Because it's one thing to build, let's say, a block of energy efficient condos. It's another thing entirely to design that block with actual community spaces in mind.
So people can gather, interact.
Right, to partner with local businesses, to actually think about how the physical environment encourages interaction and a sense of belonging. Those are the details we'd need to see to know if they're taking community focus seriously.
It's more than just a slogan.
Right.
Their fourth value is quality, which on the surface seems pretty straightforward. Good materials, lasting construction.
But how does that tie into their larger mission, do you think? Quality builds trust. By using high-quality materials and construction techniques, they're essentially saying, we're invested in this community for the long haul. It's a signal to residents, to investors, that they're not cutting corners. Plus, durable, well-built homes and buildings, they just age better, which benefits everyone.
Makes sense.
It's about building a legacy, not just making a quick buck and getting out.
Okay, so they've got their values, but what about the actual work? They've got some interesting projects going on, like Kingdom Place, 24 energy-efficient homes.
Right from the get-go, they're putting their money where their mouth is, because these aren't, luxury condos. These are aimed right at that middle-income market we were talking about.
Makes you wonder what the profit margins look like on something like that, but I guess that's a question for another time. Then there's Royalty Place, 200 new homes. Mm-hmm. That's ambitious.
That one's interesting because it shows they're serious about scaling up. 200 homes. That can have a huge impact on a community.
Is always the but, right?
Well, it makes you wonder if they can keep that community focus as they get bigger. Are they going to become the very thing they're trying to be different from?
Right, that huge developer who's out of touch. So it's about keeping that balance as they grow. Which, speaking of mixing things up, there's also Preeminence One. That's their big downtown Newcastle development.
With retail, office space, residential, the whole shebang. They're really going for it with that one.
Trying to revitalize that whole downtown area. That's got to come with its own set of challenges, though.
Oh, for sure. Projects like that can be controversial. Gentrification is a real concern. So it'd be interesting to see how they're making sure longtime residents actually benefit from all this, not just the newcomers who can afford the higher rents.
Right. So it's one thing to revitalize, it's another to make sure everyone benefits. And then we have to talk about royalty camping.
The curveball.
The deluxe RV resort. It took me by surprise, I'll admit.
Well, leisure and tourism, those are huge for local economies. By attracting visitors from outside the area, they're bringing in new revenue. Maybe putting Newcastle on the map for folks who wouldn't have thought twice about it before. It's playing the long game.
So from houses to communities to now an RV park. Yeah. Where does it all go from here? What's their big ultimate goal?
Well, in the short term, it seems like they're really focused on building up their capacity, getting to a place where they can take on more of these projects, bigger projects, and really refine those sustainability practices as they go.
Laying the groundwork.
Exactly.
But what about the long-term vision? What are they really shooting for here?
They want to be the top dog. They want to be the leading sustainable development firm in all of Western Pennsylvania. And not just in name, they're talking about a significant market share.
Bold. Think they can actually pull it off?
It's definitely ambitious, but if they keep this momentum up, who knows? But that kind of growth, it comes with its own problems.
What could trip them up along the way?
Scaling is tough. When you grow that fast, it's easy to lose sight of what's important. Can they stay true to their community focus, keep up the quality? That's going to be a big challenge.
And not just growing for growth's sake.
Exactly. Another thing, they need to stay flexible. What works in one place might not work in another. They're going to have to be really good at listening, learning, and adapting if they're going to succeed in different markets.
So flexibility is key. Mm-hmm. What about competition? They're not the only ones talking about sustainability and community development these days.
True. It's definitely a growing field, but that means Metro Vitalization has to stay ahead of the curve. That commitment to innovation, that might be what sets them apart.
So it's a race, in a way, but not just for profit. It's for who can do this kind of work the best. Makes you wonder who's driving this whole thing. Who's the person with the plan?
The man with the vision. That would be Ricky Trinidad. He's the president and founder of Metro Vitalization. From what I've gathered, he is super passionate about this stuff, really wants to make a difference in these communities.
So he's not just in it for the money, but even with passion, there's always a learning curve. What kind of lessons do you think a company like Metro Vitalization might be picking up along the way? What kind of lessons do you think they're learning as they navigate this whole revitalization thing?
Well, I think one of the biggest ones is patience. Because real community development, it's a marathon, not a sprint, right?
Takes time to build trust.
Exactly. You can't just throw up some buildings and expect everything to fall into place. You've got to understand the community's needs, and that takes time.
And then there's that question of impact. How do you actually measure if they're making a difference?
Right. And they've got some projections in their materials, like they're anticipating creating over 200 direct jobs just from construction in the next couple of years.
Yeah, jobs are a good start. Puts money in people's pockets.
Exactly. And those construction jobs, they have a ripple effect. Suddenly you've got suppliers, subcontractors who are all benefiting. Plus, those workers, they're spending money locally. It can really boost a local economy.
Creates a whole ecosystem.
Yeah, exactly.
They also talked about boosting property values, which, again, done right, seems like it could benefit a lot of people.
Key phrase there, done right. Because, yes, increased property values can bring in new investment, revitalize a neighborhood, all that good stuff. But you have to be careful. It can lead to gentrification if you're not paying attention. Push out the people who've been there all along.
Right, so it's about making sure the benefits are shared.
Yeah.
Which takes us back to that whole community focus thing, doesn't it? Are they really looking out for everyone, or just the folks who can afford to move in once the prices go up?
It's something to watch, for sure.
And how do you even measure that social impact? It's not as simple as just looking at job numbers or property values, is it?
It's a lot more nuanced than that. It's about a feeling, a sense of belonging. Are people interacting? Are they supporting local businesses? Do they feel proud to live there?
You know it when you see it.
Exactly. And that's why I think Metro Vitalization's focus on creating those community spaces, those green areas where people can gather, it's really important.
Gives them a place to connect.
Yeah, exactly. But it can't just be about the physical space. They need to encourage those connections, maybe through community events or, working with local organizations.
So it's like planting a seed. You still have to water it, give it sunlight if you want it to grow. Seems like Metro Vitalization's on the right track, but it's definitely a work in progress. Any final thoughts?
I guess if there's one big takeaway here, it's that community revitalization. It has to be about more than just bricks and mortar. It has to be about people. Metro Vitalization, they seem to get that.
I'm going to stop the video right there. Isn't that interesting? Those were not real people. They're my AI agents dialoguing amongst themselves about revitalization and about my projects. They even had advice, caution, suggestions, and their own opinions. I find this very interesting, and it almost seems human to me. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know what you think. I'm planning on doing other AI podcasts on different topics in the future, so please share your comments. And thank you for joining us today. I hope to see you again next Thursday at 6:30 p.m. right here on Kingdom Business Talk.